You ready to burn some metals? Be more than human. And welcome back to the channel, all my fantasy fans and my Sanderson fanatics out there. My name is Joseph Carroll. I write under the pen name J.R. Carroll. And today we are going to dive into Mistborn, the Final Empire, and my first Sanderson book. Now, I'm sure we all know what was going on with Sanderson and the article and all that. And it actually started to kind of die down. And then I was in a, like a live, book discussion, live discussion, and I was actually in the comments, and I seen some guy talking about Sanderson's prose and how he's objectively not a good writer, right? So I found myself defending him, and yet I have never read a book of his. So, and I had always planned on getting to Sanderson. I wasn't sure where I was going with it, but after being in that video, I was like, you know what? I have to read his book now so I can see for myself. And so I can see, am I the one that's wrong? Is his prose, or, are they bad or what? So, I'm going to come right out and say I was right. I loved it. The book was great. I had always wondered. I'm like, Sanderson has always been big for the years now, and I was like, well, where am I gonna fall on him? Is his hype real? And we'll get into all my thoughts on the book. If you like, content like this, if you like to get an array of different book reviews, make sure you like and subscribe, because I do maybe as many book reviews as anybody, because I try to review everything that I read for the most part. But let's get into the book itself. Mistborn is it's set in a completely different world, right? It's kind of high fantasy ish, but the world has a feeling of kind of 1700s ish, maybe early 1800s. That's kind of how the world makes me feel. Maybe early 1800s. And we learn that there's a noble class in this world, and a really big amount of kind of slaves, or what do they call them, skull, but yeah, there's a huge portion of these people, and some of them are on plantations, and other ones do the work, in the cities, do the dirty work and stuff. But within this world, there is a group of people that are trying to rile up that class of people, and kind of overthrow the government, or kind of turn it on its head. But the thing that makes this world kind of different, because we've seen those things in other books, right? What makes this world different is the magic system. And I know I've always been told that Sanderson has some of the most intricate, detailed magic systems out there. And this one revolves around metals. And you actually have to, for the most part, you have to swallow little pieces of metal. I think they're normally like little balls of metal, and then you do what's called burning them. And once you get used to it, I guess you can swallow. They swallow like vials that have all different kinds of metals in them, and you can, like, in your mind, you can feel and see. Like, you can search them out, like, okay, this is the one I want, and this is the one I want, and you can just naturally feel it. And these metals, most people, if you even have the ability to burn metals, you have the ability to do one. But if you can do two, you can do them all. And our we have two really main characters, Kelsier and Vin. And Kelsier is an he's a little bit older, and he's the guy that's kind of going around to these plantations and causing trouble, and he really hates the noble class, because he was kind of sent to like this mine, or they call them like the pits, and to mine metals and do other things, and it was just a terrible place, pretty much where they send people to die. And he was one of the only people, and that's like kind of his legend. He's like, he was the survivor, unkillable guy. He actually made it out of there, and he ends up kind of finding Vin. Now, Vin, we're introduced to Vin, and she is the one that really kind of introduces the magic system, because she is a thief. She works in like a thief crew, and the head thief always likes to have her around because deals just go right when she's around. And the way she calls it, she's like, oh, I'm using my luck. I don't want to use up all my luck. And that's how she sees it, until she actually meets Vin, because everybody she's ever been around, she's a younger, good-looking woman. They've all beat her and stuff, and they threatened to send her to the brothels and stuff like that. But when Kelsier finds her, she tries to use her luck on him, and it really doesn't work. But she feels like him pressing the same thing on her, and he ends up on her crew and ends up teaching her about these metals. And with these, and metals can do all sorts of different things. You can almost like fly with them, but Sanderson's really clever, because the way he works with it is like, you'll have like a coin or something. You throw a coin down, and it's on the street or something, and you can push off the coin, right? So that pushes you into the air, and then you can pull on another piece of metal. So it's like, oh, you're flung yourself in the air, right? And then if there's a metal pole or something down there, you can pull yourself towards it. And so you're not really flying as much as you are pushing and falling and pulling yourself. But you can mess with people's emotions with certain metals. And like steel, iron, copper, tin, pewter. I think it's pewter that allows you to like, gives you energy and stuff. And if you get hurt, you can burn pewter, and it'll help you kind of fight through it. And the most important metal in the entire kingdom is called atium. And what it allows you to do is see a few moments, like a few seconds or a few moments into the future. And everybody, the Lord ruler, or hero of the ages, as they calls him, he's called, or they call him, he controls all the atium. And so he divvies it out to the nobles, and that's how he keeps his power, and he's super rich because they'll pay for it, but also he kind of holds it back in reserve, so they do whatever he wants them to do. So he's like double dipping. He's like, I got your money, and you'll do favors for me. And so Kelsier recruits Vin, starts teaching Vin about all the different types of metals, and he starts putting like a crew together to try and overthrow the government. And there's actually another type, they call it allomancy. People who can deal with that can actually burn the metals. But then there's also, I'm gonna butcher this. It's like ferromancy or ferrochemy, and what it is, it's like where you can like store memories, and you can do other weird stuff like memories of being really strong, and that one is way more complicated to describe. But it's really cool, and these guys named that they call themselves keepers, like keepers of knowledge. A lot of them have that power, and the Lord is trying to eradicate them. Apparently, he sees them as a threat for some reason. So he's kind of taking them out, and in this plan, Kelsier has Vin go undercover as a noblewoman, a young noble single woman. So she gets to go to a bunch of these different parties and try to get information about what's going on. And this is where one of our other kind of main characters, or he's the main character outside of our POV, and that's Ellen. And him and Vin spend a lot of time together, and becomes kind of her romantic involvement, but really not. It's like a situationship kind of thing, where he's a noble, but he doesn't like the way things are, but he's not really he doesn't really want to overthrow the government. And he's very eccentric. He likes to read books all the time, and he makes his dad mad, and just one of those kind of troublemaker, I can't be bothered type of rich kids, I guess. But there is some really interesting, and like I said, there's a lot of different nuances to the magic system, and there's these people called Still Inquisitors, and they have like spikes that have been driven through their eyes, and which gives them this weird sight, and they're extra strong. And and the Mistborn are people who have the full array of power, and Kelsier and Vin are both Mistborn, but even Mistborn can hardly handle a Still Inquisitor. And so I don't want to try not to give all the book away or anything, but just kind of my closing thoughts here. Now, when it comes to his prose, I don't know where these people are coming out with like hating. I don't know. They're not super purple. They're not super archaic, but they do what prose in my mind are supposed to do, and not get in the way of the story. They don't throw you out of it. It's good enough that you're not like why why is he talking like this? But again, it's not so high up that you're like, okay, I'm really having to think about these words that you're throwing at me. Brandon Sanderson just knows what he's doing when it comes to writing the story. Some people say the magic systems are really intricate, and that could be a negative. And at first, I will say, I was like kind of really having to think, okay, they're doing this metal, she's burning this metal. But about a third of the way through the book, you stop thinking about it, and he's able to explain it to you well enough that you just, like, a third of the way through, you're like, okay, all right, she's burning this now, okay, great. And then, that's how, okay, you just pick it up super quick. And so I really don't have much negative to say about Mistborn. It's a long book. I didn't feel as long as it was, but to like me, I'm not a super big fan of giant books, and I know like it seems like all of Sanderson's books are really long. And most books that are over, I really haven't read many books that are over 700 pages that I thought should have been 700 pages. So I guess we'll kind of see as we go forward. I'm definitely going to finish the original trilogy here. I'm not sure what the next book is. I haven't looked ahead to see what the name of it is, but I'm definitely going to check it out. And if you can put in the comments, like, what did you think about Mistborn? What do you think about Sanderson? What do you think about the first trilogy? Do you think I'm, with how I described it, do you think I'm going to like it? But can't wait to continue on with Sanderson here and seeing how he improves going into the next book. And remember, be more than human.